Museveni in the treacherous fields of Luwero Triangle and later broke ranks with his master. Honorable Amanya Mushega, I thank you so much for having given us time to honor our invitation and be on this show.
Thank you for inviting me. Good evening, viewers.
I must say, for me, this has been long coming, and I'm happy that I can sit with you and have this discussion at this very moment. I've known you as a historical figure of NRM. Let me begin with this. We are now into a full throttle of a general election, and considering what is happening now and what you know about democracy, does this election really meet the basic tenets of what can be a fair and free election?
First of all, I want to thank you for your, your compliments, but I think you have exaggerated a few areas here and there, and I did not break ranks with my old friend. We disagreed on the way forward. There's a difference between breaking ranks as if you had agreed on a certain thing, and also disagreeing whether you should proceed using the Fort Portal Road or take the Kabale Road.
Really, just paraphrasing?
No, it's not paraphrase. Okay, you like your language, I'm also putting it in mine.
Okay. Semantics, are they?
No. Words are intended to have meaning. They are not said for the sake of it. That's why the difference between human beings.
Okay, you disagreed on the course.
Yeah, now you talk of an election. First of all, let me put it this way. You cannot sell what you don't have. And it's difficult to sell what you don't practice. You get me? Mm-hmm. When they were trying to amend the constitution for the second time, to remove the
age limit.
The age limit. I met the legal committee. I gave my views, some were written, and I made one statement and one question. The statement was to these people that power intoxicates a person far, far more than alcohol. You can get, when somebody is intoxicated with alcohol, they become more powerful, they imagine things. But the difference with it is that when you wake up tomorrow, there's time for reflection. On the other hand, power is a permanent thing. In the washrooms, in the office, wherever you know power.
Honorable Mushega, you're saying your colleagues are in a kind of a permanent drunken stupor?
No. It's not drunken
politically.
Stupor. Can I finish my statement?
Okay.
One was power, whether you like it or not, can shroud you into a mystery and you become more powerful. And there are certain things you don't see. Mm-hmm. I've also been in power, but in a lower level. You are treated, wherever you go, you are treated this way. You don't come to see with the time the reality on earth. And you begin to get advisors also who want to tell you what you hear. That was one aspect. The second aspect, there are these two schools of thought. The school which thinks that only one person can manage Uganda. Without him, there is no peace, there is nothing else. And my question to the MPs was, is your leader the person you are trying to amend the constitution for? A leader to the promised land, to bliss, future bliss, or potentially a danger to a leader that could easily lead you to an abyss of danger and probably disaster. You understand me? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because when you stay long, and on that one we used to agree with the President Museveni that overstaying in power in itself is not an attribute. Then there is a new aspect. Do you sell what you don't have? Because you have people who do not believe in democracy, trying to sell democracy with a sense of entitlement. They have come to believe that this position of MP for this area, minister for this, is mine, and anybody who wants it really is a danger to society. You can see in 2000, there are people, when they try to run with both my old friends, people moved the motion in our meeting that we should declare Museveni a sole candidate. And I remember, I don't want to mention myself, strongly Honorable Kategaya, the late Kategaya, may so rest in peace. And General Munt said, why are we doing all this? And Munt told one of the people in NEC then, that you people destroyed UPC and you are come here to destroy our movement. And eventually that never worked. It was tried. I don't want to mention who are champions of it, because some of them are now champions and some others, we all think the same way. And now he's declared a sole candidate. So even when you run against him as if it's a crime against humanity, it is not said publicly, but actions speak louder than words. So it's a problem that we need to look at holistically and have a frank discussion about it. Because even when you meet people in the movement, very few believe in what they say publicly.
Now, talking about when people in the movement, I know you as somebody who belonged to that NRM, where there was intellectual discourse. And I can remember names of people like your colleagues like Augustine Ruzindana, like Winnie Byanyima, the late Wapakabulo, the late Mayombos. And you could sit and talk and discuss some kind of statesmanship. But it appears to me that the baton has been handed over to the likes of Full Figure, Balam and Butcherman. Is that the natural progression you expected?
You are taking me in an area I'm not familiar with. It's not my role to talk about the abilities of people or myself. But in any society, even with your own self, you always have a debate in your mind, isn't it? Should I ask Mushega this question? Should I not? Should I go this way? You debate when there is an issue. You don't just go one way. I'm sure you debate in your mind. True. And sometimes you can ask colleagues.
There has been even a question who say, I asked myself, and you wonder who is asking yourself.
Yes, you can ask yourself.
There's always, something
even like when I was in government, I used to, both as the Secretary General and as a minister, I used to tell some colleagues that sometimes the views of the Minister of Education are at loggerheads with those of Mushega. Because you come with views in a meeting, like when with the views, let's declare the president is sole candidate, and you debate with others, and because you want a team, and their views win over the moment. And when you go to defend them, it's as if they were the original views. That's what leadership is all about. So whether the current crop is better than the old is not my business. What I know is that the level of debate, if you look at the Hansard of the 60s, these MPs, the level of debate, and these were people who are J2, Senior 4, very few PhDs. I only know Dr. Imbazake. The level of debate on national issues was far superior than today. There's no doubt about it.
So that's what I'm asking.
I'm saying this is a general situation. If you looked at the Secretary General of Acholi, the Secretary General of Chigezi, the Katikro of Uganda, the Katikro of Unyoro, these were men who took their jobs seriously, of stature. Of course. So in a way, we have lowered the bar of leadership, and I've made it known to my colleagues in government outside it. There's no doubt about it. So that the bar of leadership has been lowered, and something must be done about it.
So there hasn't been any kind of grooming for the leaders of today and the leaders that are going to take the country forward?
I don't believe in grooming personally.
No, but at least if people are exposed to some kind of ethos and values, that's the kind of grooming I'm talking about.
Grooming means you encourage as many young voices as possible to blossom. And it's a way of people saying, no, this one is better than so and so, this one is better. And now tomorrow, out of 5 or 10 people you choose, you get me? The population, whoever they choose, is well tuned to keep the baton going. In other words, there's always youth leagues, there's always the younger generations. The baton moved may jump the queue, as my brother put it. Instead of going to 70, it can come to 40. But all of them, and then secondly, there are institutions. You put institutions in place that contain leaders from going astray. I hope you get me. And those are the issues that work. I'll give an example. I was talking to a former leader in Tanzania. We involved in the Burundi talks. We have been put on a committee of eminent persons to reconcile the Burundi people. Then we discussed the issue of Uganda, because then the late president of Burundi was trying to change the constitution, Uganda was trying to change the constitution, and others, a few more. And then this gentleman told me that when Nyerere wanted to retire in 85, in 8 after they won Uganda, they said the nation needs you. Then he continued. In 85, they said, if you go, the country is gone. We need you. Then he mentioned, he said, I brought myself into politics. It's me to take the decision. I think I've done enough. The Central Committee members maybe started something, what they were saying, without you, the country is doomed. And this gentleman, he wrote than me, and he was a student, he was already Attorney General. So I respect him. He said, so he'd said, I'm not running. But because Nyerere had encouraged many leaders to blossom, then he turned to me, he said, you know, when he stepped down, what happened, Amanya? I said, no. He said, 17 of us picked the forms. That's where the Mwinyi, the Mukapas, the Kikwetes, Musuyas of Tanzania come from, Marecheras, I happen to know a good number of them. People are saying we cannot not do without you.
And here's a big number that wants to step in.
Immediately, as soon as they said we're stepping down, because when you want to stay in power long, one of the things you do is to make yourself indispensable. By having associates, when they compare, they say, really, they make alternative look ugly. One time I was arguing with a colleague who is a minister. He said, why do we want to step down? So that the BSJ takes over. I turned him, I said, first of all, what's wrong with the BSJ? Number two, why should the next leader come from the opposition? Can't you yourself be a president? You have been a minister for so many years. The president Museveni been a minister even for 5 years. Then you look back and say, why do you have to look? Did Mwinyi come from the opposition? Did Mukapa come from the opposition? Did Mbeki come from the opposition? Why must leaders have to be merged from? They can come within or without, but within the purview of Uganda.
So why is it that in NRM, for example, there are very few people who have shown the ambition to lead? I'm sure there are people with the qualities, but in most cases, if we go to the primaries and everybody is singing a sole candidature, is it because they are really convinced they can't lead? Or probably the top executive is telling them, don't dare?
Well, I wish we could move away from personalities, not to dwell on it. I am not there.
Yes, you are not, but
you
are a senior
but
citizen.
I happen to not have an idea. You know, one of the worst things you can do to people, even children, anybody, is to instill fear. Fear of the unknown. If I do this, what will happen to me tomorrow? I'll give you an example. There's one time in a meeting somewhere I mentioned to the president that it would be good if we could have a formal, friendly handover to another leader. It was a private function. Then I went home. This elderly lady where I normally buy things from, with a very, very sympathetic tone, she turned to me. She was going to Nyankore, but I'll put it in English. She said, Honorable, don't you fear? I said, fear what? That you may be killed? I said, being killed for what? I was taken aback. To tell a leader that he must step down? You get me? Genuinely concerned that my life was in danger. I said, no, but young old lady, take it easy. There was nothing wrong. We discussed with my friends. I just said what my heart felt. And secondly, there are many people in that audience who actually clapped without knowing it. So it's that fear of the unknown. I gave you an example of Nyerere. And you could even take Kenya when Mzee Moi said, I'm stepping down. A lot of flowers flourished. And Kenya is going on. So,
there's an element,
but you can ask those who say it. You can ask those who say that. Do you say it genuinely? I'm sure you meet some of them privately. Do you say it genuinely or is it fear of the unknown? They are the one best to answer it. I can't speak on their behalf. I know,
but you see, as a senior citizen and a member who sacrifices time to fight for Uganda, you know, we see a lot of violence happening. And I want to ask this. Increasingly, we see violence everywhere. When people try to, remember, walk to work, they are stopped violently. Remember when people wanted, you know, the Kawaka wanted to go to Kayunga, that ended in violence. Just a few days back, there was violence on the streets of Kampala. I know you captured power through violence, but is NRM that one you had once you belonged, inherently violent.
What do you mean NRM that once belonged? I don't understand
You were a senior member of NRM at one point.
And then?
You are no longer a senior member of the same.
Which NRM? Let's put this matter to rest. What they call NRM today, NRMO, has nothing to do with the NRM which came from the bush, except the name and the leadership. This is a party like DP, like FDC, like Anti, like NUP. It's a party with the structures, with the flag, with the membership, with the primaries. So the original NRM, whatever its imperfections, was all encompassing. And you are almost conscripted. We never had primaries. We never had membership. And there was no threat that if you don't vote for me, you'll be in trouble. You understand me? Then we decided that within the constitution of Uganda, yes, it states clearly that the two systems cannot work at the same time. That when one system is in place, the other one is in abeyance. You go to rest. So halfway, we said, let the movement system cease to exist, and we go to parties. And the party President Museveni chose to call itself NRM. Get me? I'm called Mushega, but Mushega is my father's name. I'm Amanya Mushega, he was Asanasio Mushega. I'm not him. Don't mistake me for him, he was a little bit more serious. So, when you say you abandon, no, NRM, which abandoned the original NRM and called something NRM. Please take it that from you.
Yeah, but, well...
So now the other thing we are in, we all chose to say, let's take different paths. By choice. This one is stayed and called their party NRM. Then we called ours FDC. Others came and DP strengthened itself. UPC had already had a few issues, but is still there struggling.
You know, but
it's not semantics.
But this element of violence, Honorable Mushega, this element of violence,
yes,
that seems that it continues as a pattern. And I'm wondering, how do we get off this element of violence?
First of all, violence is done by us, Ugandans. The people who are carrying out violence are not imported. And what pains me most, Mr. Kamara, is that President Museveni, my brother Salim Musare, myself Mushega, Rugunda, my friend, all those people in leadership, they cannot arm their sons to go and beat people. They can't. Ask my son, where have you been? I've been beating people. Which one? I don't know. Oh, mom, give sharp boy. You kill him. So if we cannot send our sons to commit sin against their fellow citizens, why do we send somebody's son to do that? To me, it is really, I don't want to describe it. You've got my emotion on it. First of all, it is the parents who your children go to be trained to beat people, who should be telling their sons, don't be used to go and beat other people. Please, you have better things to do. There is a tomorrow. Violence can be stopped by us to say, I am not going to do it. It's not easy, but it has to be done. And those inflicting violence, because when you use violence, it begets violence. You get me? You turn other noble people to think the only way forward is to be violent, to show toughness, as if calm leaders have no role to play in this republic of ours.
But there are some
so
people...
it's something that should be condemned. One time I saw my old friend Kale Sengushari with the stick on TV. The other day you saw this chairman of NRM Electoral Commission with a stick for grazing animals. He was there in Tungamo and Zimbabwe, also grazing people. And people who graze the animals don't use them to beat them. It is give direction. People who own animals don't actually beat them. When you see somebody beating animals, you know they are not his. So why do we allow our children to do this? Why do we allow...
What do you make of the words of the former commander of NRA when you've just come into capture power, General Eli Tumwine, and we had a soldier in Masaka, I think is somebody called Sunday, and people have said, we shall shoot you, we shall kill you, and we will, even if we can never hand over power, even if it is constitutionally, democratically elected, we will not. And things like these. These are some people you served with as a senior citizen. I would want to hear what you make of such stuff.
No. First of all, I advise you, Mr. Kamara, never use the word never. I see people saying, this will never happen to Uganda. No, you can say, we shall try our best to make sure this thing does not happen to Uganda. Those who say those things, I don't blame them.
And why is that?
Because I think some of them are saying things that are not supposed to be seen but are discussed. I've seen many people say it. Do you want me to hand over to the power to these Mushega, these wolves to tear the country? I kill my animal. So sometimes the truth is bitter. I wouldn't say them myself, but that they say them should tell you what is in somebody's thinking. And maybe he's not alone. And then you begin to practice, how do we make it impossible for that person to say, when elections are held and somebody loses, there will be a peaceful handover of power. It's good to me, I think. I've seen the General Tumuine's caption, and I saw the one of Sunday. I didn't see the whole picture. I asked one of the generals in the army, what do you say about this? He said, we disciplined him. But let me take you back. Around 1986 or 87, there was a gentleman called Dajiani. He was a deputy minister from West Nile, Arua then. And he was on Entebbe Road, and I think a taxi driver drove bad, whatever the case. He caned him. He was forced to resign. Later on, my good friend, General Otafire, showed a pistol, whatever it was, to some lady, and he resigned. That's what I remember, that you should show acts of indiscipline, you behave beyond yourself. When I was walking here, I was just seeing the way the vehicles are in chaos in town here. And when we were in the bush, they used to talk about, Tumuine knows it very well, that shame is a revolutionary sentiment. When you, Ensonyi,
yes,
you are a human being. When you lose your shame, this is a problem.
So now, why is it that today,
so we have two things. There was what we
people
call
have no shame in their game.
There's something we call shame, what is called conscious discipline and mechanical discipline. You are not doing something because the police is seeing you. But the other one is doing something because he inherently knows that it is wrong. Now we moved from conscious discipline, even abandoned mechanical. Because you see borders drive the way they want. You see somebody with a UC coming, driving in the opposite direction. You see another one driving on the pavement. Those are small things, but they tell you about how our society is organized. To me, those things worry me more. So what do you do to get rid of violence is to not do it the Mbaba's way. Which is? When they used to beat his people, I think you remember that one in Tungamu. He also organized, I think maybe his team organized a counter force. You saw them on your TV, they came walking with their sticks, and I think they have done a little bit of karate. So they were beating these beaters in yellow, and they were scampering. It looked bad, but counter force doesn't solve problems. It's a national crisis, and I've seen people in the primaries of NRM beating each other up. I ran for 2 elections only, the CA 93 and the parliamentary election 96. And I was running against strong people. One of them was my brother-in-law, to Professor Teberondwa. But we used to have rallies and with no police. I had some soldiers because I was a minister then, an army officer. But they were seated there in a corner, not appearing, and the elections were being conducted by trade development officers, assistant cows, And things, those are elections, I remember. These ones not beating up people in order to be. Let me tell you, even the worst part is the way we have made being elected a question of life and death. You sell your things, you understand.
So when people disregard the laws,
you beat up your opponents.
When people disregard the laws and regulations, and we have no values, and morality is bad, isn't that pointing to a poor leadership at the top?
Of course it is. You should not be ashamed about it. I told you the one who caused Gianni to resign eventually was made ambassador, and my brother Tafire. Yes, anybody who finds chaos in his home and you don't take precautionary measures, remedial measures, the back ends up with you. There's no doubt about it. So what is painful is the violence within NRM primaries was worse than even today. Today it is now, because when you win an NRM primary, already 7-1-1-1, so he's a candidate, and those are, when they are flag bearers, then the state comes to act on their behalf.
So when you have a problem, when you admit there's a problem of leadership, do you believe the elections can help change the guard and maybe bring in a new breed of leaders, perhaps who can steady the country to a certain course that maybe will take us to calm waters than where we are now?
I mentioned this thing to the Electoral Commission people when I was in NCF, is the party that, the group that brings parties which are registered together, and usually the chairman is from the majority party in the parliament, and the vice is from the leader from the opposition party, official position. And I mentioned it to my colleagues in the Electoral Commission, and I may not be believed that as long as President Museveni is a candidate in Uganda, it is not impossible, but it is very difficult to organize a free and fair election. Very difficult. I say it without any whims about it. It is very difficult. Because, you know, it is not the easiest.
And that is because of him?
No, any incumbent. If you saw when President Moi was running in Kenya, the first best free election they held in Kenya was when President Moi stepped back, and the fight was free and orderly. When President Nyerere was the candidate for CCM, there used to be, there was a tick yes or no. When the tick switch always were more than the no's, then you become elected. But the moment he stepped down, for the first time, CCM held primaries within the party to choose who is the next leader. So change of the independence of freedom fighters leaders opens a gap to new opportunities. And my colleagues who owe that to Uganda, we have a responsibility to keep knocking and say, please, let's hand over power peacefully to others, organize them free, and we can give advice. But now we shun each other. If you don't belong to NRM, people, if this, don't talk to NRM, the NRM don't talk to this. Somebody you grew up with in the primary, some are best men, some are parents of our children, some were to go to school together, to obliterate that history on the altar of party colors. And my own view is that when I see somebody wearing a color from top to tail, I know he's what word?
Hold on to that word, because you're going to take him. Because you're going to take him.
No, you know that is where hoax is. If you believe in something, you don't have to sing it all the time and wear it. Me, I'm religious. So you see, we've come to take violence to be a way of solving things. You know.
But that's how you came to power.
We have No.
And that's how you want. That's how you want to retain power.
No. Coming to power, by the way, the gun was not primary. In attacking Kampala, yes, but the gun was not primary. For example, like the barracks in Fort Portal surrendered, hands down. There were more pressures from different people, and we are mingling with the population. That's why you found NRM in the West and the Buganda behaved differently from when we went to the North. Because you belong to the population, you know that they would feed you, they gave you information. It was not just armed people only. We are making a mistake that the arms alone did it. It's not true. They were not supplying food. They were not supplying medicines. They were not opening routes from here for treatment abroad, those who were badly injured.
The skulls of Luwero and to tell a different story.
No, in war people die, for sure. You can't say people don't die. There are scars in the north. There are scars in Munyoro. The British massacred the Banyoro as if they were animals in the bush. Wars are not a thing to think about daily, to have your colleague die and the enemy die, and both are Ugandans, are human beings, is not pleasant.
Okay, hold on to your point, Honorable Amanya Mushega. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On The Spot. My name is Patrick Amara, and my guest tonight is Honorable Amanya Mushega, who's a senior citizen. He has served this country as a minister. He has also served the East African region as the Secretary General of the East African Community. So he's got institutional memory. He has rubbed shoulders with the leaders of this region and particularly our country. There seems to be a dichotomy of young people versus the old. For heaven's sake, if you look back, President Yoweri Museveni ran against Dr. Milton Obote in the 80s. He ran against Dr. Kawanga Ssemwogerere, and he's run against Dr. Besigye. Doesn't it look a bit strange that a person who's been running for president since 1980, he's now running against somebody he found in diapers in 1986, a musician of a different generation? Is that because he has overstayed?
No, you see, first of all, when you try to militarize everything, that you have to be militant in order to achieve your results. I've even, we have also militarized the prayer. I've seen people saying they are prayer warriors. Even COVID, we say we shall go to fight, we fought many wars. So there has been an element that emerges that you have to be vigilant, you don't have to be calm. Because what I did as a young boy in the university when we were rebelling against Amin, with the bush, we can't do now, even if we say we shall go back to the bush. There is a limit which your body can allow you to push. Mm-hmm. So it enhances the young to say, it's our time to challenge, because they see no future. Number two, when you make it difficult for your natural successors, natural I don't mean those who are within the bush, no, the order of things. Mm-hmm. That when, and I mentioned to you, when President Nyerere stepped down, when Mandela stepped down, those we know, when Roaring stepped down, when late President Moi stepped down, you see how leaders within
come up in big numbers,
and with some form of experience. Now those are too shy or too calm to go on the streets and jump up on the tables and somersault. It becomes hard. So the only people who say it's our turn are the young, because they have nothing to lose and their future is at stake. So it's important for who are older to do things in an orderly way, to know that. That's why I believe that every leader should have had a sport. A sport, mm-hmm. Whether it's tennis, whether it's football, especially golf, whether it's running, because it teaches you a number of things. One, it disciplines both the body and the mind.
It does.
Number two, you learn to play by the rules. Number three, the umpire's word is final. Even if you let alone to revise it, you learn how to be.
And I like tennis, at least you even shake your hand, even when you lose.
And most importantly, it tells you the passage of time. Where you'd hit a ball and it goes 300 yards in the case of golf, where you'd be running that ball to running 100 meters in less than 9 seconds, you begin to run it in 12, 14, 16, and you see younger ones overtaking you. The problem with the political leadership, it deludes you. You are still the youth of old.
You remain in your bubble.
Yes, and these young people, I'm surprised. One time I was in Mombasa, and then I people say, Acha Mzee Pit. He said, hey, even people in Mombasa know that I'm no longer youth. You go to Arusha, Mzee Pit Hapa. You get me? The young people see it as that we have overstayed, we have lived too long. Not because when you have children and grandchildren, they want you to be around, but not part of them. Play with you when they want, allow them to be children. Then you can advise. But now we can't advise. First, we can't be advised by our contemporaries because they fear to advise us. You get me? So,
they fear that what would happen?
What would happen?
Yeah.
But what has happened now, which we need to work on, is this fear instill either intentionally and unintentionally the sense of fear. People fear the unknown. And perceptions, in my own experience, are worse than reality.
The world runs on perception.
No, it doesn't run. If it runs on perception, you are doomed.
Perception is key.
When you perceive that so-and-so doesn't like you, it's not the same as somebody who doesn't like you. And you begin to see unlikeness in the face. When you don't serve, if you challenge somebody, you are in trouble. And by challenge, it means that you can say, sir, in the right environment, what you said is not correct. Leaders must be advised. You cannot live by your own. So we must create a room where there is orderly growth. You cannot be in senior one forever. I remember when I became a Minister of Education, two things. One, I had a meeting with these senators and deans and professors. And they were introducing themselves. I was much younger, 89, 90.
I remember when you came to our school as Minister of Education.
Before you go to your school, let me tell you my career now.
Okay.
So, because you are not there. So I went to the university and the people introduced themselves. I'm Professor so-and-so, the first and only specialist in this subject.
How come?
These are men in their 50s, 60s. Another one. Professor so-and-so, the first and only. Then I said, please, let's stop there. Being the first is commendable. That 35 years later, you are still the only is a disaster. You are an obstacle to develop. But there we had powers, and I was being supported by my boss. So we moved on to purge decently that you deans and professors and young people sprang up. I want to mention the departments, young people. Young means those in their 30s and 40s. So that was one. The second one, there were these needy students. So this man, he was a chairman of needy students. So in my 5th year as a minister, I said, but you young man, what course are you taking here? When I became a minister 5 years ago, you are chairman of needy. I know you are not doing medicine or engineering. And now, you are still chairing the students. Don't intimidate us. You're soldiers. So I sat with the vice chancellor and the group. We said we must put a limit to government sponsorship because you could repeat and repeat and repeat. So we passed a regulation that you repeat twice on government scholarship. The third time, you look after yourself. I think that gentleman took off to Sweden. I think declared he's a refugee. So similarly, that's why we had put these limitations in the Constitution. Serve 2 terms. You don't leave because you have run out of steam. You leave because the law says so. And I've said many times, my brother, that the problem of Uganda, African general and Uganda in particular, now I talk as a lawyer, is not just bad laws. It is that we don't even implement the bad laws we ourselves have made. You get me? You make a law when it's inconvenient to you, say, pass on the left, pass on the right, right over the pavement. You
or amend it.
Before you amend it, you abuse it. It happens. Because if you implement a law that is bad, then you begin to know its weaknesses.
So our country seems to be very polarized. There seems to be a generation, a gap that is fighting against the old. And I'm sure young people have always been told, you will be the leaders of tomorrow. But they see octogenarians in leadership and they are not leaving. So they want a seat on the table, and in most cases they want the entire table. How do we get out of this?
Let me tell you one or two things. I'm not part of that. I was an elected MP. The first 10 years we declared ourselves MPs, 86 to 95. Then I ran in 86. I did not run again in 2001. I became Secretary General of East African Community for 5 years, and my time expired. I've had, I think, 4 Secretary General ever since. When we meet as old citizens. And by the way, the caption I sent, I wish you could work putting them there. When you see, you know, when you visit Akana Kataita, when you visit other people, and you see how senior citizens sit and rub shoulders.
You've shared a picture, I think, of the presidents of Tanzania, former presidents, and I think the presidents of the United States, former presidents.
And Kenya.
And Kenya.
And South Africa.
Who seem to be living a good life because...
Oh, yes. We went to visit President Moi when he was retired. You know, when they come to Arusha, they are in a hurry to go. And we went to his home. He was so calm, so fatherly. He did not want her to leave, giving advice on this and that. So you see another person. One time I was in a meeting at a dinner, and there was former President Buyoya of Burundi and President Gowon.
Nigeria.
Yes, in Kenya, when Quebec had taken off. And they were chatting in the corner there. They were saying, hey, aren't we free now? You know, even you could not touch your briefcase. Even to go to the toilet, you have to inspect it. They were comparing the experiences as presidents, now as free citizens. And I saw it also with President Mwinyi. I went to visit him. He wanted something done for him. Then I said, you cannot, I will be in Arusha, Dar es Salaam, I come to visit you. I found him at his home. He gave me his juice. We started chatting. That's 15 years back, by the way. Since then, Mokapa came on, later Mokapa, then Kikwete, now Magufuli. You see the ambience, and when they are in a meeting, they are speaking, say, Eben Watarisha was a wangu. The president is introduced his former successors, and they stand up, and sometimes you say, for us, what have we done in this country? If you come to Kwanjura of your daughter, I don't know if you have a big one, not yet maybe, and all the people are there, the aunties, the uncles are your age. It looks odd. And when they say there's that grandmother there in a corner, where for the people go to. One time we were in an AU summit in Durban. Then as regional institution leaders were sitting behind the former president. There was Kaunda there, I will not mention Mandela and there. When they finished, they were going for a break. They said, but you heads of state continue this way, the rest you use this law. All those heads of state, except one, whom I will not mention, all of them came to pay homage to Mandela, to greet him. Then I turned to Mzee Kaunda, I say, sir, when we were young, you gave us anchor in your country, and he tapped on the shoulder. It was our duty, young man. It was our duty, young man. You see people in their retirement with the dignity and advising new ones, don't do things the way he did it. To me, it is a very challenging.
What you've just...
And it's not too late. You know, Uganda has never had a leader who hands over to another peaceful. And when we were running the elections in 2001, I was his campaign manager in Western Uganda. They were saying, let's for the first time...
the train or the bus of a smooth transition in Uganda, has it not left us?
No. It's never too late. And when you say these young people, and they call this young man that is a ghetto boy, and let me tell you one or two things. One, when Semogere ran, he was not anywhere from the ghetto. He's a graduate of Kisubi. When later on Mbabazi ran, he is a bushman, an old friend of President Museveni. Later on Besje, he was his personal doctor. Now, later on, Tumukundi is a general. He had to test a bit of Ruzira. So, let me say one thing. These are our products. If you deny no more processes take place, the body has its ways of sorting itself out. Suffocates you or suffocates the unit.
So what you're saying, the leadership can create the kind of opposition?
No. First of all, this young man, I don't know him.
The Honorable Robert Chagulanyi.
No, I mean, as a person.
Okay.
But if you see he's a boy from the ghetto, you know, so if, assuming it's true, if you grew up in the ghetto, you come out, you study, you go to Makerere, I saw somebody saying that he has a degree, that one should have been careful, really, not to talk about the degrees, but that was his choice. He graduates, he attracts the public, he plays music, he stands and wins, and he is able to draw attention. The person who does not deny their background is a credible person. I'm not saying he should be president or should not be, but to tell him that we are ghetto, and some of us not from village ghettos, don't have children who are born in Kororo, in Bogorobe, all over the place who fail to make it in life. Why don't you give credit where it is due that somebody has come up and is able to put up a formidable team? And ask yourself, how did it all this come to happen? Is it in introspective? You have the inner self and say, why am I beginning to play football with my grandchildren and I stop them from scoring because I must be appearing to be the best scorer? We must ask ourselves those questions. You get me? It's good to retire. When I go to Bushenyi, I meet these guys. I've had like 4 MPs who have been in my constituency after me. Some come to have a good chat, others fear movement. And that's when we meet, we share a cup of tea or other beverages. It's nice. It's nice to be able to pass on your knowledge to the younger generation, because cemeteries are not renowned for advising people. I don't know which one.
So the country is very polarized.
I don't know whether it's polarized or not, but we are not in the best of state. Because this violence which is going on, my brother, it's not nice.
I'm told, understand there was a meeting held in your office back then, I think in the public service, where I think Dr. Besigye wanted to run for president, and somebody talked about him jumping the queue. Was that the moment perhaps when you missed an opportunity to have then, when a country missed an opportunity to have a smooth transition, maybe people would have taken him seriously and don't just try to say, look, it is not your time?
No, we mentioned that too. First of all, people fear to talk to Besigye because he had run against President Museveni, which I found odd. In actually, I gave an interview to Wembo, and there was a headline in the Monitor saying, don't shun Besigye. And in that interview, he said he has a right to stand. Remember when they say we should declare our friend the sole candidate? Let him run. He's bred, he had his own views. But we had a meeting because I wanted to show people that this man has not committed a crime to run. And some people said Mushega has given an interview, he's against us. Against who? I'm not against my country. I mean, and disagreeing with you does not mean I don't like you. You get me? I hope you get me. Mm-hmm. I don't have to agree on everything, but we have to live together. But in Uganda, we have taken it to mean that if you run against a person and you don't agree, your ideas don't meet, therefore, you are permanent enemies. And it's a very dangerous approach to life. Hold
on to your point, Honorable Amanya Mushega, because we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I'll open the line so that you too can be a part of discussion. You see the numbers on the screen. You call us and make it brief. And if in case you disagree with the Honorable Mushega or any other person, disagree with respect. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On The Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guest tonight is Honorable Amanya Mushega, a senior citizen, former minister, former Secretary General of the East African Community, and we're discussing the state of affairs in our country today. Let me take you to, I suppose, the Minister of Education. I want to think maybe that is, at least this is what I remember most. And I wanted to say, when you came to our school, and that was St. Leo's College, Shegobe in Fort Portal.
School?
I'm sure you liked it too.
I did. Have some water?
Oh, sure. I'll have the water brought to you. We have seen now the introduction of universal primary education, which is a good thing. And but there's a high rate of dropout. there's a high rate of dropout. So how do we ensure that people who have started complete, but also get skills, and they get an education that is useful to them? Today, there's a problem of unemployment, but other people say our problem is not only unemployment, but also our graduates are not employable. What do you make of those?
Actually, UP started when I was in, getting a dry voice, when I was in a minister, up to the time of implementation. And I worked with the dignitaries, those who are ministers, like Leighton Timber, Jim Wezi, Purcell, Babu, and the permanent secretaries, and Mrs. Mpango of all. She was in charge of primary education at that time. A very seasoned lady. We were brought up in manners, in etiquette, and rich in the public service matters. And of course, there were a lot of advisors, the commissioners for education, the PSCs, those who are very prominent, the Father Amanya and my brother Kasami, they are passed on, Otto, they are all very active. I'm crafting a letter I may call the premature birth of UPE. Because the original arrangement was that UP is not terminal, which it should be a process. By the time the children finished P7, would have prepared for their continuation for tertiary and secondary. So we had originally wanted to start with P1 this year, P2 next year, P1, P2, then P2, P3. In 7 years' time, you would have reached the primary 7. And at that time, you would have prepared a good number of secondary schools and tertiary institutions to absorb them. Because nobody wants to end up at primary. If you ask any child in primary, what do you want to become? Boys, president. At that time, the girl will say vice president, doctor, engineer, pilot. They are looking beyond primary. The moment primary looks terminal, so two things happened. We rushed into it and opened for everybody. So we had floodgates. Number two, we did not put our money where our mouths were. I think the funding of primary did not become consistent. Three, it became a little bit of political. We brought this. This we brought. That's one aspect. But it's still correctable that, because we were talking of, by the time they finished P7, you have prepared more classrooms, you have trained the teachers, you have arranged scholarship materials, and you have prepared the continuation process. That was one angle. The second one, education, there is no nation that has developed. And I've read and visited a number of them, those who have made it. When Britain was the workshop of the world, when France was doing this, when Japan came to understand the English to build ships, when America came to overtake Europe, they concentrate on quality education and skills development. And they must work in a tandem with the economic activities in the country. Because when you graduate, I don't believe that everybody who graduates will be self-employed. That's a deception. Most people go and work, develop skills, and then go to work for themselves, or partly themselves, or partly for industry. But when you have skills, it's easy to adjust. Now, when it went on, then it became a question of numbers. Now, anybody opens a university anywhere, University of the East, I don't want to mention in case I'm in trouble with my friends. You go to every village university. University is not something you just go starting around like a hospital, like a clinic. Everybody meet, I'm engineer so where do you study? I went to technical school. I'm honorable and so. One time when I'm meeting somebody said I'm honorable so I lost the elections. So we are after glory and titles and so on. Because for the government, you would say, when we came, they wanted 3,000 graduates. Now, 200,000 graduates. But what are you graduating? You get me? The quality matters. First quality. Even if it's bad education, let them read and understand it. Then you can change it. In order to change something, you must understand it better than the one who supports it.
So what would you advise in the situation of education, the area of education today?
It's not my job to advise. I point a few
You're
areas.
a senior citizen, so you
Yeah,
can...
but you see, I was a minister of education, and there have been many ministers of education along the way. Some we have met and exchanged views, others we never met. And it's not my duty, when I have opportunity to meet and advise where I think I can, to do so. So it's partly my fault. I was telling you when we were chatting here, when I became Minister of Education, two things happened. One, I was in Arua. And then in the morning, somebody came and said, there's somebody who wants to talk to you. I said, who? He was a former Minister of Education under me, Brigadier Kiri. You know, we fought, so we didn't have, and Brigadier Kiri invited himself to breakfast with me. And the man gave me a lecture on education and the issues he had. He apparently was an educationist, a qualified professional. The man at the breakfast was just listening, like hell. And at the end he said, Mr. Minister, I remember his words, this system where very few people go to school and others don't go to school, we are going to get a revolution. I'm quoting his words. So when I came back, I said, everybody has, I called a meeting of all former ministers of education, living and not in exile. And we had a meeting in the Minister of Education here, and then we went home for a cocktail and a dinner, and I kept interacting with them. I learned a lot from my predecessors, the former PSCs and the former commissioners and the former, they were the Inspector General, what is called Chief Inspector of Schools, Chief Education Officer. Now they have changed their titles, I think. So I have a duty too, but I mentioned what I thought were shortcomings. Education is not for political gain. Education is for the future of a country. Okay. And most of them will become productive when you are no longer a leader. Our biggest shortcoming in Uganda, we want the easy way. One, we live beyond our means. Two, live beyond our means. And three, want to do things for which they will pay us tomorrow.
Let me hold on to your point there. Let me open the lines because they understand there are quite a number of people who would want to maybe ask you a question or contribute or even disagree with you. So this is the moment. The numbers are on the screen. You can pick your I have a call online. Hello. Hello. I have a call online. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Good evening. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good evening. I'm calling Reza David, calling from Gulu.
From Gulu?
Yes.
And your name is David?
David, yes.
Okay, go right ahead, David.
I thank Mr. Amanya Mushega the way he analyzed things. And I'm wondering...
Go right ahead, David. Don't listen to your own echo. Just continue talking until you finish what you want to say.
Yes, I'm wondering that he has been in government with the other members of, those of Babu, those of Kategai and Eric Mwine, but the way others see things differently. I wish we could have people like Amanya Mushega. I think we could have a better Uganda. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, David, calling from Gulu. You can also call, you see the numbers online and tell us what you think. I think I have another caller online. Hello. Hello. You don't. If your call goes through, please you turn down the volume so that it doesn't bring you an echo to disturb you or even us. So I'm going to try and take another call online. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Bamwine.
Bamwine, where are you calling from, sir?
The District Commissioner Mkono.
Okay. Go right ahead, sir.
To thank Senior.
Go right ahead, Mr. Bamwine, you're on air.
I want to thank Amanya Mushega for his contribution. But when I was hearing the way he is articulating issues,
yes,
I have this question to pose to him.
Okay.
Since he managed to call former ministers of education and other people who had contributed in education, at his age and seniority, he also called the old people that have served this country, and they form a caucus, which can be an alternative to things that may be not going well as according to him. Okay. Because I think there are other people of his age who have served in various capacities who can still contribute, but when they are caucusing and giving alternative views. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bamwine, calling from Mukono. I'm going to give him, of course, the time to respond to your comments and your questions. And so let me try to take a couple of calls so that he will respond at once. I have another call online. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening to you, sir.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm called Waso Joseph, calling from Ginger.
Waso Joseph from Ginger, you're on air.
Okay. Now, to pose one question to Amanya Mushega.
Okay.
What does he say about this issue of live shooting on the supporters?
What does he make of the shootings of live bullets to the
live bullet shooting on the supporters?
Okay.
And two, I'd like to thank him very much.
Okay.
And I would like to ask him to talk to President on to reverse some of his statements to the public, more especially what he uses during this campaign.
All right. Well, thank you so much, our caller from Ginger. The Honorable Amanya Mushega will respond to your question and maybe to your comment. Let me also try to I want to take 3 more so that our guests will be able to respond to you all at once. I have a call online. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Abim.
What's your name, sir?
I am Opio Patrick.
Opio Patrick from Abim. You are on air. Oh, we seem to have lost that connection to Abim. Opio, Patrick, are you still with us from Abim? I think we lost that call. Let's try to take another call online. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
What's your name, sir, and where are you calling from?
Jeff calling from Porto City.
You're calling from Fort Porto City. Your name once again?
Jeff.
Jeff from Fort Porto, you're on air.
Yeah, just a quick one.
Okay.
I want to thank the doctor for his articulate.
Could you repeat that? Jeff, could you repeat that?
Just thanking, appreciating doctor for his articulate presentation.
Okay.
And for being a statesman.
Okay.
With all the Bush war veterans, the likes of Eli Tumine, the likes of course, Tibabuhara himself, and many others. But just to add on, I want him to explain to me, I'm not Mnyankole, but I want to understand the meaning of Tibabuhara. Why has that name come all of a sudden?
Did you mean a meaning of Tibabuhara or Tibuhaburwa, right?
Yes, please.
The name Tibuhaburwa?
Yes, exactly. I want to understand the meaning of that.
Okay.
And then to add on that, basically I think NRA was the beginning name of the resistance. Now it has become MRM. Basically it has lost the meaning of NRM, the yellow color. Please elaborate on that. Thank you.
All right, Jeff in Fort Porto, thank you so much. Jeff wants to know that perhaps that you understand Nyankore more than he does, the meaning of Tibuhaburwa. Let me also take 2 more callers.
He had the other name.
I have two more callers. I have a call online. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I am Ogwana David from Tororo.
Ogwana David in Tororo. You are on air, my brother. Oh no. It's a pity. I think I've lost that call from Tororo and that call from Abim. I think I have to, let me try another one. Hello.
Yes, please.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm called in Nanoka Samuel calling from Mbale.
Mbale, you're on air, Nanok.
Yes,
no.
please.
Nanoka Samuel. Yes, go right ahead.
I would like to thank Mr. Amanya Mushega for the good views and, in fact, a good language that he has used. In fact, it gives us hope as youth.
Okay.
And we do pray and request that, if possible, this President Museveni should also heed to this word so that we don't go back to the past. To have at least a progressive Uganda.
You never know, the president could be listening.
Enjoy. Yes, please.
You never know, the president could be listening also.
Yeah, we are just requesting as youth, see that he gives us also opportunities to also handle and remove the Uganda. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Samuel Nanok, you said, from Mbale. I understand there are quite a number of you would want to maybe talk to the Honorable Amanya Mushega, ask or maybe make a comment, but it's a question of time, so I need now to give him the opportunity to respond, and I'm sure he's been taking notes and he remembers the names, so that one by one he can go through those. Most of you are just thanking him for his views and his character and his values.
Okay, thank you very much, all the callers. David, thank you for your compliments. But I hope one of these days you can meet and you tell me more about your own views. For Bamwin, I hope you are not the old-time RDC. Your politeness this evening is quite encouraging. I think we meet, old friends we meet. Some old friends we meet, others, and new ones. But you can't force people. But some people fear to be seen to discuss. But there are a lot of people you meet and I can assure you, there are many people who talk about the future of this country. There are not many people who are comfortable that everything is perfect. And now, Joseph, shootings, all security forces are trained how to handle civil strifes. It is prohibited anywhere in the world. The bullet is the right thing you use on your own people. But when you look at everything in military terms, the army are taught to shoot. And to me, I think what pains me most is that you see people are even shot. First, to demonstrate is not a crime, especially when you think things are wrong. Young people always say things are wrong when even they are not there. It's part of we have all gone through it with the Museveni were together in university. Striking was not something uncommon. And whenever students in Makerere went on striking, including my good friend Mao, in the public would be condemned them. But when you sit, you say, these boys had a point, but they went beyond the normal. Young people are full of energy. And they have to find a way of exiting it, but in another manner. But the most painful part, I've not seen anybody coming out in the government to apologize for the unfortunate shooting of these Ugandans. It is really painful. And something must be done about it. It's as if the armed forces are trained to kill your own people. And the moment the person is taught how to kill people, they don't know. You don't know when they will stop. I remember when the Bush, President Museveni and other leaders always condemned assassination as a method of solving issues. Because the person who is called to kill sometimes has to be killed in order to make things come. And it can be...
The cycle will not end.
It's a bad culture to say that anybody who opposes you must be shot. And sometimes I wonder whether these people are policemen or people dressed in the police uniform. Like those who came to attack the... When you see now, you see people, the police walking, they are not no strike yet. One time they're having a gun, another time carrying a stick. We are not... to hard Ugandans is not correct. It's actually painful. My worry is these people, young people who are brutalizing, I don't know where their brutality will end. So that's my view. It should be condemned. And I think our leaders should come out and say these acts and those who have done it should be got and punished. Otherwise, you don't know where it will end. I'm not an expert on Nyankwere language, So whereas the name Tobahaburwa come from, I don't know. I've also seen it being, but I know why he's asking me to explain this one. Since we're in Fort Portal, Nyankore and Rotora are very close. So ask people in Fort Portal and they'll tell you what it means. We don't have the same meaning. I missed my friend in Abim.
Why don't you tell him the Nyankore version?
I said I'm not an expert on it.
Oh, you also have no idea? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not I have no idea, but the implications.
Can you share the idea that you have?
No, allow me opportunity to answer the questions in my own style. You know, that is the tongue in the cheek. You'll get the meaning. Now that one of the, my brother from Abim, I wanted to ask him how is the Abim hospital. One time we went there on a tour with the ministers and the president, and we find the MD had been in a local place also enjoying himself. One of those old hospitals built by Bobi Wine government.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know how it is doing. A very good place to be in. David got cut off, the friend from Mbare. Yeah, my views about people retiring in good time have been known. They are not new. We had long meetings with President Museveni in 2004, 2005 when we were trying to change the constitution. We had a long discussions with him. We did not agree, and we also had discussion with other friends, Bush friends, and old friends on it. Others who agreed, others we disagreed, and others who agreed that we take different parts and remain friends, and others who cut off links. But it's never too late. Because when I saw, when President Moi was being sworn in, I mean Kibaki, people were talking very ill of President Moi. Even they were trying to throw stones at him. We came very calmly, and we were saying in Kiswahili that vyote vinawezekana bila Moi. Everything is possible without Moi. But eventually Moi, as I said, he became one of the biggest advisors in the community and an advisor to Kibaki and Kenyatta. So when somebody withdraws from active football or politics or anything, their reservoir of knowledge begins to exude.
Vyote vinafanya nini?
Vyote vinawezekana bila Moi. That
Moi.
everything is possible.
You know, I kept on thinking about that.
Everything is possible without Moi.
No one is indispensable.
No, they were saying everything is possible. Yes. They thought he was such a bad fellow.
Yes.
But towards the end, Moi was one of the most respected people in Kenya because they came to realize that leadership is not simple. And of course, the others have met. I don't want to go into many. So it's never too late. And when I have opportunity to discuss with my old friend, President Museveni, I do, but we don't always discuss these politics only, the issues. Somebody you have been with for 40, 50 years, it's not easy to raise that history and say you have never known each other. It is even pretentious and silly. I'm using silly on my part. Somebody you've known for a long time and you say you have nothing to learn from each other, especially when you know each other and the most difficult circumstances with nothing to share except ideas, dreams, and aspirations. Now people come to be friends because they are dividends. But when we were students, when we were in these issues, there were no dividends. It was only contribution, which other people have come to call sacrifice. I call it a contribution. So never say never. It's never too late. And when things happen, you got shocked how quickly things can be forgotten and better progress can be achieved. Because new people should come with the better ideas. They may not be better, but they have a reservoir of knowledge, a reservoir of advisors to benefit from.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see you have belief and hope in Uganda to move on and you know, for things to be better.
One thing you can do in life is to lose hope.
I just want to...
And then you cease to be human.
I want to
give up.
I want to expand as we try to conclude the discussion, but look into the issue of the East African community. The East African community, for which you served as Secretary General, I think was a good thing. But as we stand now, Uganda is not exporting to Rwanda. Rwanda is not talking to Burundi. Our goods in Kenya, they are getting a lot of non-tariff barriers, and the exporters are crying. The businessmen have lost money. And South Sudan, of course, is in a never-ending conflict. it looks like this East African project is failing.
No, it will not fail like the other one. It will limp. It will not fail. Because nobody in their senses wants to say we don't need East Africa. Actually, this thing called Uganda, there is a paper I could give you written by Nyerere when he had started being president. He said this effort we are making to make Tanzania a nation, Kenya a nation, we are wasting our time. He said colonialism, like Nkrumah said, had two faces. The colonial arm, the political arm, and the cutting of Africa into meaningless states. We are meaningless states. Lines like this, originally people would move the Maasai, you would find them moving in Kenya and Tanzania the way they wish.
Actually, I have more people speaking my language in Congo than they are in Uganda.
Yeah, you get me. They do meet for them, they have not bothered by passports. So, and by the way, we are in for the second scramble. When you see the Chinese, the way they have come in, Africans were come to misplace our emotions. We worry about others more than ourselves. We worry about others' styles and values and foods and names and whatever than ourselves. You get me? It's time we woke up that we shall sink together or be swallowed individually. And our survival is in creating big units that make economic sense that can have a political clout. All leaders see this, and I don't believe leaders alone can put integration process. I wish the gentleman who was asking me about coding, these old friends could talk about, because we tested the old community, we started the new one. The young generation don't even know Uganda. They don't even know Toro. We have cut them into small villages. Chejegwa, I don't know, Amalotong, I don't know, Buheju, I don't know, somewhere in Mwoya. You get lost. You can't even describe the districts of Uganda, let alone the MPs. So there must be an effort to bring, chaotic as we are in some ways, we are, when you look at the BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, they look at Africa as one. When you see the African command. And what pains me most, when the African leaders are going to the East African community, they meet for 30 minutes and they are dispersing. But when they are summoned by Japan and China-Africa relations, India-Africa relations, Russia-India relations, England and Obama had started, you see all of them flocking there one by one, you know. The president of Greece, Xi Jinping, of next one, photo session, he addresses you. You know, we have lost our dignity. When we were growing up, you had to value your mother's cooking 10 times better than a smearing merit from a neighborhood. We have to start with valuing ourselves. When this person was shot, they went here during the Mabera riots. And the lady who was leading the riots, now they are finishing Gobudongo Forest in her watch. One Indian was killed and we sent him up, got India, but nobody knows the names of the Africans who are killed. When Africans are killed, we don't value ourselves. So we don't value our people. And we don't value our survivors. And everybody looks at Africa as one, but they eat at portion by portion. So this community, to me, I don't think will collapse. It will limp on. In the long run, it will pick it up. But otherwise, we are doomed.
I want to ask a personal question. When was the last time you spoke to President Museveni?
Why? Why do you want the last? I talked to Museveni. Would that make you feel better?
No, then he's getting...
I talk to Museveni, yes, I do. So I don't want to call it the last.
So
I can request a meeting.
Have you challenged him on the need for a smooth transition, and what does he say?
No, not challenged him. I said in 2004, 2005, we met him many times, persuading, this is known to us, persuading him not to change the constitution. He went ahead and changed it. And I personally don't believe that if I disagree with you, Kamara, therefore, that's the end between you and me. Quisha, I don't. There will be disagreements in society, and people must look for a way around. So I talk with him, yes. If he invites me, I'll meet him. And if I need to meet him, I'll say, can I meet you? Once in a while we can meet. Yes, don't say the last time. Why should it be last?
No, I'm not saying the last. The last time you
because people believe that you should not talk with others. You know, I will tell you a funny story. One time we were in Bushenyi there, and this man who was under DC, about 7 years back, he started taking me, yeah, here, Musei has been calling you, and blah, blah, blah. Then I said, excuse me, sir, don't waste your time. I was with him last week. Then the conversation stopped. Why do people want to take pride that they don't talk to one another?
Right.
When was the last time I talked with you?
Now. So, okay.
What I request you to do, you should always leave channels of communication open if you're interested in the future of your community, in the future of your children, and the future of your country, and the future of the African race. Because we are doomed, actually. And you don't have to agree on everything.
You've tried to compare the level, in the beginning, the level of debate in our parliament to the 60s, when you said maybe those were better, even though they were not as highly educated as the kind of legislators we have now.
I think not formally educated. They were much more knowledgeable than the current corrupt.
Yes, but if you look
in terms of value for their country, value for themselves.
Yes, but then we had a smaller parliament, members of, now we have almost, we're going to have more than 500 of a bloated parliament. We have a huge cabinet. We have cut through districts and created many more. Our parliament is almost the size of India, which India has a population of 1.2 billion. Isn't that an error of judgment?
To me, I said we have a problem in Uganda. We want quick results. What Museveni is calling cheap popularity. And we live beyond our means. We do. We don't value where we put our money. That's why you're talking about UPE and technical education and vocational education. So even when you look at parliament, not everybody must speak. You could say these people will speak next week. If you are given 3 minutes to speak, before you say thank you, Mr. Speaker, the minute is gone. And people don't read, because when there are so many with limited resources, an MP cannot say everything he wants himself. They normally have research desks, isn't it? If they are going to debate a bill on COVID, if they are going to debate on agriculture, GMOs, you should have a team of either general team where researchers can be given to give you basic information on the subject. So that when you come to contribute, it's a permanent learning class. It's not where you come and say you love Museveni, you hate best church, and then they say here. Then you put on yellow from the head to the bottom, or green or pink, whatever color you want. No, it's what ideas you exude.
Okay.
And definitely the parliament is bloated and everything is bloated. And it's a burden on the budget. This is what about these districts, these cities, these MPs, these councillors, these everything. All going to national pass is a burden to the budget. And one day, we shall pay for it heavily if we don't restrain.
Okay, at least you have added that.
And if we are not already paying heavily for it. You ask the people who are in the
somebody was sent a question here. He's saying, Honorable Mushega, when you were on the NRM high table, all was well. When you went out then, you began dreaming of succession. Why didn't you agree after taking over power with President Museveni on succession prior to or immediately after taking over? What was the gentleman's agreement?
No, let me tell him, I will not use abusive language like him. First, I'm the one who voluntarily left the government. When we were meeting Museveni, the late Katega was there, the others still alive. I was Secretary General, they were ministers. I was in the top echelons of the party, and we were still in the movement system. So about not changing the constitution has been a position. You know, this language they use. One time they saying, the Mushega saying this because they are disgruntled. They are no longer ministers. I told one person, I said, please revise your history. I'm the one who stopped being a member of parliament, who stopped being a minister. I don't want to go into other details. But I think, I mentioned to him that we told President Museveni not to change the constitution. And he went ahead and changed it. And others, people stopped talking to us, and others said, we have disagreed, but let's remain friends. I don't want to go into names. But those are people trying to dent you. In other words, don't talk. Assuming I was at the table, I wish I could know his name and we meet a cup of tea. And does it mean that when you are, say, a drunkard and you stopped, you cannot talk about the dangers of drinking? Assuming he's right, which is not correct. And if you read the history, when I called the BSG in my meeting, I was a minister.
Okay.
Right? So, although he has not given his name, tell him that please read your history correctly, and no amount of mudslinging will shift my positions. And by the way, he doesn't think that I could still be on the table if I wanted.
Okay, he's hearing that. I want to thank you so much, Honorable Amanya Mushega. It's been an honor for me to really host you, and I'm sure Ugandans have had a different version now, and also to hear your views and where you stand and your values and your character and your experience and your time of service to your country. What's going to be your concluding remark on the show?
My concluding remarks is that, please, if you don't believe in something, don't try to advocate for it. Number two, Uganda belongs to all of us. If we say let's have elections, let us have, first of all, we should never have had these elections because we didn't talk about COVID is more rampant than we think. But we chose to go that way.
Yes.
And if we're going to apply the law, let's apply it holistically and to everybody, not selectively. When you saw these NRM primaries I saw, it was chaos. And people are gathering as if there is no tomorrow. I'm not saying Chagulanyi is right in everything he does, but if I saw you fighting with my uncle, why are you stopping me from fighting my brother? You get me? Do you have the legitimacies? So let's treat this country as ours, and let's have a time to serve and a time to be served and to be appreciated.
I want to thank you so much, Honorable Amanya Mushega, for your time, for having honored us and our invitation to come here. We have learnt a lot, and I'm sure the country has had time to listen to you. He's a man who has served his country with distinction as a minister, but also he was in the bush, in the trenches with President Yoweri Museveni, in the treacherous areas of Luwero, trying to bring peace to Uganda, which they did. Oh, okay, I think that could be a discussion for another day. But we thank you so much. And he's one of those voices of reason, and he's cool, he's calm, and he's collected. We still need people like those because that's what can make Uganda tick. COVID-19 is real, and so let's mask, and then we sanitize, and we keep the distance. Probably we can beat this. Good night and God bless Uganda.